There are things you just don't say on Egyptian television these days.
وتشرفت بدعوة الجزيرة حينما علموا أنني في لندن.
Or even on a channel based outside the country and broadcasting in, like Al Jazeera Mubasher. And Abdul Moneim Aboul Fotouh must have known that.
هذه ليست انتخابات لا تليق بمصر. عيب.
He did cross what is considered the red line in Egypt because he questioned the relation between the Egyptian army and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He insinuated in the interview that the relationship between the army and President Sisi may not be as solid as is assumed.
اللي عمل كده بعيد عن احترام العسكرية المصرية لها تاريخ في الشرف.
I cannot speak for him, but I can speak in terms of any voice of opposition to the regime featuring on a Jazeera channel and projecting a view that is contrary to that of the regime.
نلوم نظام عبد الفتاح السيسي في فشله أن يقضي على الإرهاب.
This military regime is not even going to allow any semblance, however cosmetic, of opposition to it. It's a sign that it feels threatened, a regime that feels itself marginalized and widely opposed, contrary to the image it wants to project of itself of being popular and representative.
يعني يكون هناك نظام عصف برئيس منتخب ووضعه في السجون واختطفوا فلا يوجد يعني شيء يعني مشكلة أمامه أن يعصف بغيره وغيره. الناس
Which is exactly what happened to Abdul Moneim Aboul Fotouh. 3 days after that interview, having returned to Cairo from London, he was jailed, along with 6 members of his political party. Fotouh was a leading figure in the Muslim Brotherhood before splitting from the movement to run as an independent candidate in the 2012 election that Mohamed Morsi and the Brotherhood would go on to win. Of the tens of thousands of Egyptians jailed since President el-Sisi took power from Morsi in 2013, Fotouh is among the most prominent. When he agreed to talk to Al Jazeera Mubasher, the network knew it had a story on its hands. It devoted 1 hour and 40 minutes to that interview. Al Jazeera has been banned from Egypt since 2013. The authorities have jailed its journalists and accused the network of pro-Muslim Brotherhood coverage. On stories like this one, the government and its allies refuse any and all interview requests. Al Jazeera is not the only outside broadcaster in the Egyptian mix. The less tolerance the government shows for dissent on the domestic airwaves, it seems the more news comes from beyond the country's borders.
Appearing on Al Jazeera is provocative in the current Egyptian climate. However, I think the issue goes beyond Al Jazeera, because now there are Egyptian media that are opening in Turkey that can only be understood through the geopolitical angle. It is not about, let's say, Turkey or Qatar believing in the values of freedom of expression. It is more about using media in geopolitical struggles with other countries.
The rise of these channels came as some kind of countering the official state narrative by giving a different version of reality altogether, a different story. And they did position themselves from day one as quote-unquote oppositional media.
فعمل السبرنت اللي حضراتكم شايفينه ده جري بهذه السرعة زي أي سكرتير متأخر على مديره.
The Istanbul-based media channels are a vital lifeline for Egyptians who want to know what's happening. They're a very important channel in putting forward an alternative and in many ways much more balanced view of the reality, political, economic and security reality in Egypt.
I just have a caveat. They should not slide sometimes to the same level of propagandistic type of coverage.
البلد دي والله العظيم ما بيمشيش فيها غير الأوساخ.
Some of the words they use or some of the insults that they use might backfire, and it might affect their credibility negatively rather than positively in the eyes of a wide sector of Egyptians.
Among the channels beaming out of Istanbul and into Egypt, the 2 biggest are Al-Sharq and Mecca Malin. Of the 2, Mecca Malin is considered more pro-Muslim Brotherhood. Al-Sharq is owned by a former MP and party leader, Ayman Noor, who fled Egypt in 2013. Mecca Malim's ownership structure is more opaque, but its donors have clear links to the Brotherhood, which makes the network an ultra-sensitive issue in Egypt. When Ipsos, an international market research firm, published a survey last year showing that Mecca Malim was the country's most watched television channel, the authorities closed down the firm's Cairo offices. The official reason given? Concerns over health and safety in the workplace. Travel restrictions on Egyptian journalists have recently been widened to include Turkey. Again, the Sisi government cited safety concerns, calling Turkey a war zone, which will come as breaking news to Turks and the Egyptian journalists working there.
Why are they coming to Turkey? The opposition, whether it's politicians or journalists, all need to breathe, to have some fresh air. Politicians, journalists, citizens, we're all suffocating in Egypt. The media have only one thing, a paper and a pen or a camera, and they're considered enemies of the regime. But the regime's media, even with all its strength, its dozens of channels and millions of dollars, cannot stop freedom of speech.
The Egyptian media is controlled by the General Intelligence Services. What we're seeing is increasing control by the military through its holdings of supposedly privately owned and independent television channels and news outlets. It underlines the fact that the military and the military intelligence are going to control the narrative fully and totally. This is complete authoritarianism, and I think it's represented very clearly now in developments in the media sector.
Having long since gained control of news outlets within Egypt, banned channels they don't like, and arrested journalists and politicians who refuse to fall silent, what is left for the authorities to do? Get some other voices, celebrities, to echo the dominant narrative. Film stars and footballers are among those who have been added to the non-stop chorus of pro-Sisi voices you will hear and see on the Egyptian airwaves.
ورا البلد ورا الرئيس عشان احنا دي بلدنا وده رئيسنا ولازم نساند.
There is this very, very deep state of fragmentation and polarization and division like Egypt has never witnessed before. And a narrative of you're either with us or against us. So those who are already conditioned, their minds already conditioned, pro-state, pro-regime, pro-Sisi, they're going to definitely be affected by these types of endorsements.
These people are handpicked and they are used to legitimize the dictatorship of General Sisi. There will always be a minority of supporters for whatever reasons for dictatorial regimes, but the vast number of people opposed to this regime do not have a voice, and they certainly do not have a voice, any kind of representative voice through the media in Egypt now.